open up that fridge and grab that very cold lasagna for some casual and cold opinions on the world of professional wrestling and football. This is Very Cold Lasagna with your host, me, DylanLasagna. Hello there, everyone on YouTube, Anchor, and, well, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Welcome to a brand new episode of Very Cold Lasagna. This is technically the first real episode of the podcast. The podcast housing a safe and open forum of casual, cold, and even the dumbest takes on WWE, All Elite Wrestling, and the NFL. And, just in general, the world of wrestling and football as we may see fit. But mostly those three sports organizations, because those are the ones that I'm mostly interested in. But nonetheless, welcome to Very Cold Lasagna, a new day, a new episode of the podcast. Again, the first official episode of the podcast. If you missed episode 0, as I like to call it, the pilot of this podcast, you can go check that out on the YouTube channel of Very Cold Lasagna, or you can check it out on anchor.fm. I hope to have a Spotify setup. I don't know why I had such a hard time setting up a Spotify for some reason, but nonetheless, it's gonna be a while till I remake a Spotify account, so bear with me, Spotify listeners. I will have that out for you in the next couple of weeks. I do apologize, but nonetheless, if you wanted to listen to it on audio, it's currently available on Anchor, so bear with me. I'm still working out the kinks, but nonetheless, we've got a lot to cover in this episode. A lot of NFL stuff to cover because it's Super Wild Card, Ultra Wild Card. Look at this fucking wild card. It's Super Wild Card weekend. On Saturday, at the time of this recording, it's still Thursday. But when it goes up, it's on Friday. But the next day, it'll be Saturday. It'll be the start of Super Wild Card weekend. We're gonna be going into that in just a bit. But first, I just want to start off the show with a brief recap of the final week of the NFL regular season, because even though the postseason will technically start on Saturday, we have to address the end of the regular season because not every team obviously can or will make the postseason. So let's take a brief trip down memory lane, especially for those teams that didn't make the postseason. So a breakdown of the games that happened on Sunday, January the 3rd, 2021. So the Miami Dolphins lost to the Buffalo Bills big time. So the Bills clinched the 2 seed over the Miami Dolphins. So essentially the Dolphins had to hope that the Indianapolis Colts lost to the 1-14 Jacksonville Jaguars, the then 1-14 Jacksonville Jaguars later that day. Then the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Cincinnati Bengals 38-3. Baltimore clinched a playoff spot. I didn't mention the Buffalo Bills game. They defeated the Miami Dolphins by 30, 56-26. And then moving on, the Pittsburgh Steelers lost to the Cleveland Browns. So the Cleveland Browns finally, for the first time since 2002, are going to the playoffs. They defeated the Steelers 24-22, but even though they were playing against backups, Ben Roethlisberger was not playing. He was resting, and I do believe Mike Tomlin didn't play like some of his starters on defense because he was resting them too, and some of them were out to injury. Somehow the Browns didn't put this game away early, and they let the Steelers, led by Mason Rudolph, their backup quarterback, come back in this game. And it got tight near the end with a two-point conversion. I think you're still at the tail end of the 2-minute warning, and that failed. So the Browns were able to run out the clock after a first down, and they, for the first time in 18 years, 18, 19, whatever, how many years, they clinched a playoff berth. So, cool. Now the prize is facing the Steelers again. So, cool. But we'll get into that when we talk about the wild card round. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings gain a win over the Detroit Lions, 37-35. That didn't mean anything because both teams were out of the playoff race. But I mean, when you get a win to close out the season, I mean, it's a morale boosting victory, I guess. Then the New York Jets, of course, they're the Jets. They lost to the New England Patriots, 28-14. I honestly thought the Jets were gonna go 0-16 this season, but somehow Adam Gase fucked up the New York Jets tank job, especially when, like, as much of an upset as it was 2 weeks ago to the LA Rams, like, they were literally the front runner to get Clemson quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He's like the somewhat presumed number 1 overall pick for April's draft. The Jets, like, were literally right there for the taking, to go 0-16, get Trevor Lawrence, build around him, and, well, we'll see where it goes from there. Yeah, but no, they won a meaningless game to the LA Rams. Then they beat the receiverless Cleveland Browns the next week, and they almost beat the New England Patriots, but then New England, I guess they stormed back to beat them by 2 scores. So, but, I mean, essentially, it was a meaningless game for the Patriots anyway, because for the first time since 2008, they are not in the playoffs, and for the first time since, I think, 2000, they have a losing record. Albeit a lot of players opting out. There's no receiver, number 1 receiver. The receivers suck. Cam Newton sucks. A lot of things that New England has to address in the offseason, and the first one, in my opinion at least, has to be quarterback, because Tom Brady's gone, and again, they don't have receivers. They need to find a receiver. Julian Edelman's getting old. He's not going to be there forever, and who knows if they're going to be able to retain their defensive, like, their key defensive players. So we'll see where it goes from there for New England. One of the key matchups I guess you could call it key if you're a fan of either of these teams, was the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants in Week 17. The New York Giants won against the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 23-19, and the New York Giants almost fumbled this game away. So Wayne Gallman, all he had to do, like, because the Giants in the previous possession intercepted Andy Dalton in the end zone as they were, like, in the red zone, very close to scoring a touchdown, because they needed it to win the game. But Andy Dalton threw a errant pass in the end zone and it got intercepted, and it was raining down hard, and Wayne Gallman, all he had to do was run for the first down. He got the first down. Problem was, the ball slipped out of his hands and he fumbled it. I almost thought that, oh my God, the Giants are going to choke this game away, and their winning ways were going to be all wasted. But they took a long, hard look at it, the replay, and Wayne Gallman did the splits to somehow recover the football. And the Giants won, were able to somehow hang on in that very sloppy ending. But unfortunately, they had to hope that the football team, the Washington football team, lost to the Philadelphia Eagles later that night, and we'll get into that very shortly. So, also we had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeating the Atlanta Falcons 44-27. Bucs are the 5 seed. Then in the late afternoon slate, we had the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers solidifying why Aaron Rodgers is the Chicago Bears bitch. They spanked the Bears 35-16 once again. And that's not all, folks. You may think that the Bears would have been eliminated from the playoff contention, and to think that they were still in playoff contention by that point. But it gets all crappy and muddy from there. But we'll get into that in a second. And in another meaningless game of the day, the Las Vegas Raiders defeated the Denver Broncos in, I mean, I guess you could call it a tight ending for the fans of these teams. The Raiders came back to defeat the Broncos on a gutsy 2-point conversion. And I don't know why Vic Fangio called the timeout during the Raiders 2-point attempt when they could have saved that on the Broncos' last possession. That was very stupid of Fangio. But it was what it was. It didn't mean it much. But Raiders won. They are 8-8. And then the game that the Miami Dolphins were watching very intently on Sunday, but unfortunately it didn't result in anything for them. The Indianapolis Colts defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars 28-14. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, they already had the number 1 overall pick because they tanked right, unlike the Jets. So the Jacksonville Jaguars, honestly, they actually tried to make a game out of it, but the Colts were like, nope, we want this game more, so let's go have Jonathan Taylor gash the defense of whatever's left of the Jaguars defense and clinch that playoff spot away from the Miami Dolphins. Let's take care of business. So the Indianapolis Colts clinch a playoff spot, and we're hoping that the Tennessee Titans somehow fall to the Houston Texans so they can clinch the AFC South and get a home playoff game. The LA Clippers. The LA Chargers defeated the Kansas City Chiefs backups 38-21. But I will say this about the silver lining of the Chargers. Justin Herbert is going to be a good quarterback. He had a really good rookie season. I really like Justin Herbert. But I hope they get the right coach for him, and I hope they continue to build around him. And I don't know what kind of pieces they need him for besides another receiver and maybe a defense, and hopefully a coach that knows how to not coach away games. But we'll see what the future holds for Chargers, because you can't waste Herbert's potential. He's good. He's really good, and it'd be a shame if the Chargers wasted his years like the Texans are doing to Deshaun Watson. So then we get to the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals had a prime opportunity to grab one of the NFC's wildcard spots, but unfortunately for them, Kyler Murray, their quarterback, was injured, and he's continued to struggle with injury, and he had to, for multiple times, he left the game with a leg injury. And what's the backup's name? It's Steve. It's Steve Wolf. I don't even remember the backup's name. It's Steve Wolf. Chris. No, not Steve Wolfer. It's Chris Streveler. See, like, I don't even remember the name. Chris Streveler had to like play a large majority of the game, and he did bad. He did really, really bad. And essentially, it was a battle of the backups anyway, because Jared Goff was out with a thumb injury. He had thumb surgery, and the Rams backup, John Wolford, played, and he did his job. He did enough. The Rams defense did most of the work this game. They got a pick six off of Chris Streveler. And that's what gave the Rams a playoff spot, and also gave the Bears a playoff spot, unfortunately. So we are gonna get to see Mitch Trubisky for one more week. So Cardinals are out, Rams are in. They beat the Cardinals 18-7. So there's that. Then the Seahawks faced the 49ers, and you know, for all the Niners went through this season, with the injuries, the three big losses in the midseason, it's nice that they fought hard in the last two games of the season. It was nice that they pretty much made DK Metcalf a non-factor. It's just that they didn't have enough firepower to contain Russell Wilson in the fourth. And as the Seahawks defeated the 49ers 26-23. But you know, it was a hard-fought effort by the 49ers, like these from this game, and then the Cardinals win. So that's that. And then as for the Saints, they completely destroyed the Panthers despite not having any running backs, 33-7. The Saints defeated the Panthers 33-7 without running backs. And what I thought was the most surprising game of the day, the Texans nearly cost the Titans the AFC South title, but this Sloman dude who was in for Steven Gostkowski because he was injured, he had to kick the game-winning field goal so it wouldn't go to overtime, and I thought he was gonna miss, but no, it doinked into the upright. It doinked on the upright, and it went in. And that's how the Titans won the South. So the Titans win 41-38. But man, they have some serious concerns on defense, and we're gonna get into the team that they're gonna be fortunate, or should I say unfortunate, to face in the playoffs in just a bit. Then in the Sunday night crapper on NBC, the football team defeated the Philadelphia Eagles 20-14, and there were a lot of people that were getting upset by this game because of the performance by the Eagles, and they were specifically upset because Doug Peterson pulled out Jalen Hurts for Nate Sudfeld, who I'm kind of surprised they've been keeping for this long. They pulled out Nate Sudfeld, and he was doing very bad. He was doing very bad, and people were starting to shout on Twitter and like all over on Sports Center that Doug Peterson's tanking, and even Al Michaels and Chris Collins were like clearly upset. They were pissed off at what they were seeing with the Eagles, like clearly intentionally losing the game. I mean, yeah, I would be upset too, but at the same, like, it's a meaningless game. Like, at the same time, it's a meaningless game for them. But also at the same time, Doug, don't make it so obvious. Like, don't make it that obvious. Like, make it Jaguars like obvious. Like, at least try like the Jaguars, and then get your ass blown out. Okay? Get your ass blown out. So, the football team clinches the NFC East. The nameless Washington team clinches the NFC East. And you know what their prize is? Getting to face Tom Brady. Yep, that's your prize. Getting to face Tom Brady. And we're going to get to that shortly, because I want to talk about these developments that were coming up today. By the way, that was your week 17, your finale for the NFL regular season. A lot of teams are looking ahead to the NFL offseason already. For like, is 18 teams are already looking ahead to the NFL offseason, and including my San Francisco 49ers, thankfully. But I will have a separate episode casually doing a recap from my perspective. Probably like not soon, because there's obviously a lot more to discuss in this month. Maybe like during the off season. But yeah, that's the week 17 of the NFL, and I will say this about the regular season. It was awkward. It was very awkward at first, because like with the WWE and AEW, when it first started during the pandemic, I couldn't get past like watching wrestling matches in an empty like training facility or an empty warehouse. It was just weird, because because like, coming from a wrestling fan, if you watch, let's say, this is wrestle speak, by the way, if you watch a match with two wrestlers in the ring in an empty training facility, it's like you can hear everything. You can literally hear everything. You can hear the commentators, you can hear the wrestlers. Sometimes you can even hear their audibles. And the worst thing is you can hear their freaking moaning. That's the worst thing that you want to hear. Go for the biggest indicator of that's really bad. Go watch Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 36. That was one of the worst, like, not like from a work rate standpoint, not the worst match, but from like hearing, like, literally an audible standpoint, like literally hearing everything. That was like freaking you know, the P-Hub. The literally P-Hub levels of, God, this is cringe. But anyway, but over time, I started to ignore the awkwardness of, you know, no fans. It's like empty stadiums, and just started paying attention to the games, you know, like, oh, it's like this game either sucks, like it's a blowout, or my team is just like, what's the quarterback doing? What is the receiver doing? What is the defender doing? Why are they getting burned? I'm just like, you know, just pay attention to the game, like, you know, as if it was just a regular football game, you know. And maybe I should try to do that with wrestling, but at the same time, wrestling sucks. But, you know, I think that was my biggest takeaway with this NFL season, at least the regular season, because while it was weird, it's like naturally, I just forgot about it. I just forgot about the awkwardness to it. And I guess the players did as well, like how they just remembered that, hey, we have a game to play. Like, even though there are no fans, there are still fans around the world watching us. So, while I do wish that the NFL could have handled the various outbreaks that happened throughout the season. I mean, I give them I give all the teams and all the league, I guess, to some degree, credit for even getting to this point, even having a regular season. I mean, without it, they would have lost a significant amount of money. And yes, health is more important over money, but at the end of the day, I'm just glad we even had a regular NFL season, and now we have playoffs. But yeah, that's my biggest takeaway with this NFL season, regular season or playoffs, that we had a season, and I was actually able to overcome the awkwardness of it. But I'm just hoping next season that we have at least some fans, or all fans, like full capacity fans, at all games. Now, I don't know if that will happen, but it's something that we have to see in the next coming months, because we're still in the pandemic. We're still in a pandemic, and we don't know when it's gonna end. The world's getting crazier by the minute. So it's a lot of moving parts at the end of the day. So that's just my personal opinions on that matter. So before I talk about the first round of the playoffs, the casuals guide to it, I want to talk about Deshaun Watson. We talked about that Texans-Titans game briefly. There's been a lot of rumors going around today. At the time of this recording, it's Thursday. Bleacher Report sent out this notification on my phone. It was like, Deshaun Watson is unhappy with the Texans right now. And then there were various NFL insiders, notably the two big names, Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, have reported on what's going on with the Texans and Deshaun Watson at this moment. And this is pretty much what they're saying. The short breakdown of it, you can go find it on their Twitters, on the articles they've written up to this point. So here's what's going on. So pretty much Deshaun Watson gave the Texans a wish list of candidates of who he'd like the ownership to at least interview for the vacant general manager position, because obviously they fired dumbass Bill O'Brien from both the general manager and head coach position. I mean, hell, I would fire dumbass Bob, because he traded away his best receiver in DeAndre Hopkins for what? A bag of Skittles, and chump pennies. Like the fuck? How do you not get anything in return, Bill? Huh? So anyway, and to make matters worse, Watson was not informed. Not only the Texans not interviewing his wish list of candidates, but also the Texans not informing him of them hiring the New England Patriots director of player personnel, Nick Cassiero, for the GM spot. So he found this out via social media on Tuesday, and that's where the tweet "Some things never change" came up on his social media. And so this started a lot of speculation up to this point of the recording, and that's why Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter have been saying that Watson is unhappy. He's not talking with the Texans. The Texans tried contacting him, but he won't answer his calls. There's a lot of moving parts here, and there's also rumors of him being uncertain with his future with the franchise and the possibility of him asking for a trade. So again, these are just rumors, and I know that Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter are two of the most credible like insiders in the NFL. But again, at the end of the day, these are just rumors, and we don't know if they're gonna come true or not. So it's a matter of waiting and seeing. But that doesn't mean we can, dream. We can dream about Deshaun Watson possibly asking for a trade if he wants it, and the Texans if they want to execute on said trade. So, and obviously, throughout the day, I kind of thought, I was like, can the San Francisco 49ers, can John Lynch possibly pull off a trade like this, getting Deshaun Watson away from the Texans? I don't know. Like, at first, I thought it could be possible, but then again, I have to look at the ramifications of what this trade could possibly do to the Niners long term, because the Texans are probably going to ask for a lot. They're going to ask for a lot of draft capital. They're probably going to ask for at minimum. I'd say at minimum. This is not this is not DeAndre Hopkins we're talking about. This is not Bill O'Brien doing the dumbass trades. And this is probably not the 2016 NFL draft situation where the Eagles traded several picks to the Cleveland Browns so they could get Carson Wentz. Or the Bears trading away literally a lot of their draft capital just to get Khalil Mack. This is honestly, any team that wants Deshaun Watson that could possibly that's probably gonna give away a large chunk of their draft capital. So I'd say at minimum 3 first-round picks. That's already hefty. But for a team like the Texans, who don't have a first-round pick because, well, they traded away a lot of their first-round picks because dumb dick Bill O'Brien decided to trade away not just DeAndre Hopkins and not get a first-round pick in return, but also I think he got Larry Tunsil for a first-round pick. Kenny Stills for a first-round pick. I don't know. He traded away a lot of first-round picks for whatever reason for players. But also, the Texans would probably ask for a couple of second and third round picks, maybe either second or third, or maybe much later picks, future picks, and maybe even a player. They might even ask for a player. So that's a big price to pay. But for a quarterback that's still in his prime, that's doing well, and although I don't want to use statistics, he led the league in passing, and he did pretty well. He did pretty well despite having a shitty O-line and not having a go-to receiver, unlike last season where he still had DeAndre Hopkins. But he still did pretty well, and mainly because he had a shitty O-line and he often had to throw. But still, he did pretty well despite all the circumstances. He literally had to throw, so that jacked up his performance. But nonetheless, that's the price that whoever, if a trade happens, that's the price they're probably gonna pay. But in my opinion, when it comes to my team, it'd be nice to have Deshaun Watson, which probably means the Niners would cut Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it does say that's the most likely thing that would happen. You'd cut Jimmy. That'd save $23 million. And it also take a $2 million cap hit. and you take on Deshaun Watson's like new contract extension, and then with Deshaun Watson, Kyle could finally have a quarterback that can extend plays outside the pocket. He can run outside the pocket. He can run, unlike Jimmy Garoppolo. But I'm not I'm not an analyst, so whether he fits the scheme in Kyle Shanahan's scheme is another question. So that's something other sports podcasters can look at. But honestly, for me, that's where it ends, because as much as it'd be nice to fantasize about Watson, we first have to look at what John Lynch is gonna do with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's really the first question that has to be answered here. What are they gonna do with Jimmy G? Yes, I know that it's been covered by Shanahan and Lynch themselves that Jimmy is their quarterback. Jimmy loves the franchise. He wants to be their quarterback. But that's PR talk. That's something that Lynch and Shanahan have to say. Unless they truly believe it. Unless they really want Jimmy to be their quarterback. And you know what? As okay as Jimmy has been, the problem is he can't stay on the field. And at some point, at least Shanahan and Lynch are thinking that too. They want to have a quarterback that should stay on the field. So Lynch has to decide whether to keep Garoppolo or cut him. And free agency hits in March. And, I know 2 months is fast, but hopefully John Lynch can come with something. They can either cut him or rework his contract, but realistically, it'd be nice. I don't know if we can cut him, but I think keeping him and then drafting someone would be the more realistic thing to do, because it's just you don't know if drafting a quarter, if whoever you draft will be ready, will be NFL ready. It's you don't know what they got. It's rare, it's with Justin Herbert this season. He was really good. You saw flashes of what he can do. And then I think Mahomes sat for a year, and then when year 2 came, he suddenly exploded. He suddenly exploded. But yeah, you have to think, if you draft a QB, is he ready to go? Is he ready to start for you? And then if you keep Garoppolo and then draft the QB, you could create a competition there. But even if whatever John Lynch decides on Garoppolo, they have to address other needs on the Niners. O-line, which sucked donkey dick this year. Corners, Richard Sherman's probably not going to come back unless he agrees to a team-friendly deal, a much reduced salary, but I just don't see that happening. Plus, in all honesty, he's a bit past his prime. He's still a good defender, but he gets burned. He got burned a bit too often in half this season. So he's probably gone. Also have to consider, if you want to keep Jason Verrett, you're probably keeping K'Wan Williams, and you also have to extend Fred Warner. Then you also have to get an edge rusher to complement Nick Bosa, and you also have to replace C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins at the backup spot. and at least get some more receivers, because you have Brandon Ayuk, you got Deebo Samuel, but you got nobody else. We don't know yet about Jalen Hurd, and we've known that he can't stay healthy right now, at least, but we need some more like depth at the receiver position. One thing that I do wish that would happen, I'm gonna get more casual in my season review, is that we keep Jordan Reed, because he would be a nice compliment to George Kittle too. But nonetheless, I'll talk more about that when we get to the season review episode for the Niners. So all in all, while it'd be nice if Deshaun Watson wants a trade, and that's if the Texans want to trade him, we have to look at the list, and that's if the Niners want to prepare a package for a trade package for him. They have to look at the list, the to-do list for what they need to address in-house. That probably starts with Jimmy Garoppolo. What did they do with him? So this Deshaun Watson thing, I don't know if he stays with the Texans. I don't know if he goes to another team. We'll just see what happens in March. It'll be interesting. So now, the wild card round. What is the wild card round? The wild card round in the NFL is the opening round of the NFL playoffs for the teams that failed to grab the top seed in the conference. So in other words, 6 teams in the NFC, the blue conference, the AFC, the red conference, are going to be playing in 3 games each on 2 separate days. So that's a lot of games. And why is it like that? Well, let me give you a brief history lesson. Before, let's say last year, it used to be 6 games. It used to be 4 games. Sorry, 4 games exactly. That was because there were only 4 teams playing on Wild Card Weekend. 2 division winners in each conference and 2 wild cards. There are about 4 teams that would get first round buys. 4 teams that would get first round buys, and then 8 teams that would have to play on Wild Card Weekend. So you get 1 team, 2 team, 3 team, and 4 team. So they are all playing on Wild Card Weekend. That's 4 teams playing on Wild Card Weekend last year. Now you add 2 more teams, and then you get 6 teams playing on Wild Card Weekend, and you subtract the 2 teams getting the first round bye, and there you go. Super Wild Card Weekend, Ultra Wild Card Weekend. Look at this fucking Wild Card Weekend. So only the top seed gets the 1 first round bye, and not only that, they get home field advantage in their conference playoffs. And whoever is the lowest seed is now the 7th seed. So the 2 seed, whoever's the 2 seed, hosts not just 1 playoff game, but if they advance, they host a second playoff game. And in the wild card round, they host the 7th seed. So the 2nd seed no longer has the luxury of a first round bye, and they got to play at home. Obviously, they get to play at home, but they have to do it in the first round. Again, that brings us to Wild Card Weekend. Look at this fucking wild card. So, let's get serious here. Oh, man. That made my eye hurt. Let's get to Wild Card Weekend. The playoffs are here. With fans or no fans. It's gonna be very different, you know. I still look back at these playoffs and say, even though it hasn't started yet, but I'm already looking at these playoffs and saying, man, this is not gonna feel the same without a full capacity of fans, because when you get to the playoffs, the fan atmosphere is so much different. The home fans want the opposing fans to be gone so hard. They want them out of the playoffs so hard. So we're here. It's wild card weekend. It's the road to the Super Bowl officially begins for 14 teams, but technically, again, it begins for 6 teams, actually 12 teams. 12 teams this Saturday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. And for casuals, this begins with the 7 seed Indianapolis Colts going up against the AFC East champions in the number 2 seed Buffalo Bills. And CBS is hosting this game in a very early morning slot. And this one is going to be very interesting to watch, for at least for me, because the big storylines here that to pay attention for, first for Indianapolis, is for the defense is whether DeForest Buckner and that Colts defensive line, can they pressure Josh Allen? Because they, like, when I've seen the Colts a couple of times when they're on TV, they've been doing pretty solid. They've been doing pretty well, especially Buckner. It's that they've showed that the Niners may have probably regretted trading him away, but nonetheless, I do think that they're gonna probably have to challenge Josh Allen to throw the ball, and Josh Allen has been doing pretty well as of late, going up against top defenders. And the biggest thing for the Colts, though, however, is on the offense. Like, can't they get the right Phillip Rivers to show up? Not the one that throws a bunch of interceptions from Rivers past. The Phillip Rivers that does just enough, that scores at least 2 touchdowns, that takes care of the football, that stays poised in the pocket, and still makes still extends plays outside of it. But the main thing is taking care of the football. Don't be the Riverception of old. At least if you want to win this game, Indianapolis. But after Buffalo, can Josh Allen continue his hot streak? He's been doing pretty well. This last month, like, blatantly, dominating the Niners, Steelers, Broncos, Patriots, and the Dolphins to eliminate them from the postseason. So Josh Allen has been pretty much lighting it up against a lot of teams as of late. So he's pretty much found a fire in himself to prove something. Now he's gonna have to do it on the near anniversary, I guess you could say, of his last postseason appearance, when it happened in a loss to the Texans. So what can they possibly learn from their loss to when they blew a lead to the Texans? Well, just take care of the ball. Don't be too conservative with it. Just carry that momentum with you. Just continue to have Josh Allen be himself, and continue to establish that connection with Stephon Diggs, and if he's available, Cole Beasley, because that receiving core has been pretty damn good this last month. And I don't know, is John Brown still with the Bills? I think he is, but I don't know if he's injured. I don't know if he's going to come back at some point in the playoffs, but if he's back, man, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. So my prediction for this game is I think the Bills are going to win by a touchdown, because besides the Chiefs, I do believe the Bills have been one of the best teams in the NFL. They've been, well, the defense has sucked in the first half of the season. They've been slowly over time, like, coming together and shutting down like the opposing team. And Josh Allen is just getting better each and every week, and he's putting up much better performances than most people expected. And of course, you still can't count out the Colts just yet, but it all goes back to which Philip Rivers is going to show up. Is it going to be the one that takes care of the football, or the Riverception? That's the one that people are going to be looking for. So it's going to be interesting. That's going to be I know that's going to be a good opener for this wild card slate. And in the afternoon game is going to be an NFC West rematch. I guess round 3, I suppose. The first of many round 3s you're going to get is the LA Rams, the 6th LA Rams versus the NFC West champion Seattle Seahawks on Fox. So the Rams and Seahawks tied their season series. And the big thing for the Rams is, will they have Jared Goff? My gut saying no. So they're going to probably roll with John Wolford again. So that's probably not good news for the Rams. I mean, they do have Aaron Donald. They have that good defensive line, but that's not enough to stop Russell Wilson. So this is Russell Wilson that John Wolford is going up against. So that's already not a good start for the Rams. As for the Seahawks, I've noticed this recently. Like, the first half of the season, their offense was good, but the defense looked ass. Then the second half of the season, their defense was a little bit better, but their offense started to suck ass. Like, why did the role suddenly switch? I mean, Russell Wilson still putting up like decent performances, but it's one that like hasn't been like as good as previous years and previous months. So especially for Seahawks fans, and especially for people that love to crave on Russell Wilson, will they get their mojo? Will they get it right in this game? Especially in a win or go home situation. Because the 12th man ain't saving your ass. The crowd's not going to be a factor in this playoff game. I think this is the only game in this round that will not have fans. So they're going to have to figure it out quick. Especially like they're going to have to get Russ cooking. So we'll see about that. So I do think that despite that, Seahawks are going to win, but it's going to, like, even if John Wolford sucks, the defense will try to keep him in it, but in the end, Russell Wilson's going to be too much for them to overcome. So that's that. So keep your eye on Russell Wilson, how he does, and keep your eye on the Rams defense and see how they do. And the key to win for Seattle, balance the running attack of Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde with just letting Russell Wilson do Russell Wilson things. And because you don't know what you're going to get with John Wolford and that Rams offense, even if they're getting Cooper Kupp back from the COVID reserve list, blitz him. Like, have the Seahawks defense blitz against Wolford, because this is not the Arizona Wolford's not facing the Arizona Cardinals. This is not the Arizona Cardinals. This is the Seahawks. They're a completely different animal. So it should be interesting. Then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers feasting on the NFC East, or the NFC least champion Washington football team, in the nightcapper on primetime television, NBC. Why exactly did the NFL decide to put this on national TV? When I know anything can happen on any given Sunday, Saturday, Thursday, Monday, what have you. But this is the NFC least we are talking about here. And this is Tom Brady we are talking about here. These two don't mix well together. And this is where I'm going to go lead to next. Does the football team even have a chance of at least not getting blown out by Tom Brady? The closest thing that the football team has got to a chance is Alex Smith, Antonio Gibson, and Terry McLaurin. And speaking of Antonio Gibson, they get to face Tampa Bay's top-ranked run defense, led by Shaq Barrett. So, that, oh man. So, I guess the Bucs can use this game as a warm-up to the Green Bay Packers. Because I guess they can use this game to have Tom Brady continue building his momentum, his chemistry with his receiving core in Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, and he likes to pass the ball to Ronald Jones II as well. So it just, for me, this is just a game to continue establishing the chemistry, the momentum that Tampa Bay has suddenly found again, resurged back in throughout December. So this is basically the appetizer, as you might put it. But if you have any hope for if you're a Washington football team fan, I will give you this one. Chase Young versus Tom Brady. We'll see how that goes. If Chase Young can get to Tom Brady. So my prediction is the Bucs are going to win by, I'm going to be generous, 17. It's not going to be a complete blowout. But I don't have the belief, as good as a feel-good story as it been for Alex Smith making his comeback in the NFL. I really hope he wins comeback player of the year. As a feel-good story as it's been for Ron Rivera, who had overcome cancer, to coach this season. I really give credit for Washington overcoming all the adversity it's had to face this season. I really do. And with all the drama surrounding Dwayne Haskins and his eventual release, I just don't think they have enough to compete against Tampa Bay. They didn't have enough to just get to this point. The only benefit they had to winning the division was everyone else in the NFC least being shitty. The Giants sucked. The Cowboys sucked because they lost Dak Prescott. The Eagles sucked because Carson Wentz sucked, and then Jalen Hurts, while he played much better than Carson Wentz, he had no O-line and no defense to back him up. And everyone was getting injured too. So there's just not enough for Washington to pull off an upset or even make it close, unless Chase Young suddenly has a big breakout game on Tom Brady, which I don't see happening just yet. So Tampa Bay is gonna probably make it easy on the football team and make preparations for a Saints or a Seahawks or more likely the Packers in the divisional. But if I'm wrong, then I'll eat crow and I'll eat tissue paper and shove it all in my mouth and live my bad take. But because that's what this podcast is all about. Very stupid bad takes. And we'll see after Sunday. So speaking of the Sunday slate, we've got the Baltimore Ravens who are going up against the Tennessee Titans in a rematch of last year's divisional upset by the said Titans, who were at the time a 6th seed when the Baltimore Ravens were the top seed in the AFC. And if for all the regular NFL fans like me who just watch the games based on performance, based on team performance, the Ravens got waxed in the game. They didn't get MVP Lamar like they saw in the last regular season. Like Lamar Jackson disappeared in that blowout in the last postseason. So as the Tennessee Titans made their way to losing to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. But nonetheless, it's a rematch of that postseason game from last year. ESPN and ABC are going to be broadcasting that game. And some of the key storylines for the Ravens are going to be, well, obviously, the first one that comes to mind is, will they get revenge for that big loss to the Titans from last season? And sure as hell, that's the first thing that they're going to be thinking about. It's like, we're coming for you, assholes. But more importantly is they've been on this 5-game surge where they've just been like destroying everybody that's in their path. The Cowboys, the Jaguars, the Giants, the Bengals. The closest game they've been in was against the Browns, and Lamar Jackson literally had to go freaking Superman. He had to go Super Cena, from the locker room and really win the game for the Ravens. So that's pretty much the reason why I'm kind of made into a big question. Just how legitimate is this Ravens 5-game surge? Because we've seen the Ravens offense play better. We've seen the Ravens defense play better. But 4 of the 5 teams they played against were shitty teams. The exception being the Browns, who are getting slowly better under Kevin Stefanski. But nonetheless, we're gonna find out how good they are after going 5-0 to end the season to get that playoff spot. So for the Titans, can Ryan Tannehill once again lead the Titans offense? Because Ryan Tannehill actually has been playing much better than last season. He's not just the game manager that lets Derrick Henry do all the work. No, he's actually become a, like the co-manager. He's doing things with Derrick Henry. He's actually throwing the ball. He's actually scoring touchdowns, scoring rushing touchdowns by himself. And yeah, Derrick Henry still proving why he's one of the best, if not the best, running back in the NFL right now. But he's also being complimented by Ryan Tannehill's play as well. So is Ryan Tannehill again going to prove that he can upset Lamar Jackson again? But another concern for me is, why has the Titans defense sucked ass so much? Why are they allowing why are they allowing themselves to get the Titans into so many shootouts? That's what I don't get. It's like, that's what I also noticed. It's like, why have they sucked ass? And I feel like that's gonna be another theme going to Sunday. It's like, does Ryan Tannehill have to save their ass again? We shall see. And that's gonna lead to my prediction. I think the Ravens are gonna win by a field goal. So I only say a field goal because even though they've been on this 5-game winning streak, again, they played very crappy teams. The Cowboys, Jaguars, Giants, Bengals. Ever since that loss to the Steelers, that's all they played. The only good team they played is the Browns. They won. That's the win I can give them credit for. But that's the other 4 teams, they've sucked. They were all looking ahead to April, the draft. You also have to look at Lamar Jackson's current track record against opponents in the national spotlights, the largest of spotlights in the world. Patrick Mahomes, 0-3. Last year against the Titans, who were a 6 seed, got whacked at home. The Ravens also got swept by the Steelers this season, albeit on Thanksgiving, Lamar Jackson was not available for the Thanksgiving game. But nonetheless, they still got swept by the Steelers. So, Lamar Jackson needs to prove that he can win in the brightest lights. Especially because, again, it's ABC, baby. It doesn't get brighter than that on ESPN. You're going to be on SportsCenter again. So, you got to win a playoff game. This is where, if you want to prove yourself as like at least somewhat legit, Lamar, you gotta start by winning against the Titans. And until you do, well, I'm just gonna look at him as a somewhat healthier RG3, but the spotlight shrinks. Shut up, computer. he's gonna somewhat shrink. He somewhat shrinks like Kirk Cousins. I'm sorry to say it. He does. It's like when the spotlight shines big, like it's quality teams in the largest spotlights, he kind of shrinks like Kirk Cousins. So, if the Titans want to win this, the Titans offense has to save the defense again. But that's going to be their downfall. That really is going to be their downfall. But we shall see. If the Baltimore Ravens want to win this game, they got to shut down Derrick Henry and force Ryan Tannehill to throw the ball. It's simple as that. So, Ravens by 3. That's my prediction. That's your kickoff game for the Sunday slate of wildcard games. And let's move on to the other sleeper game that I'm fortunate is not the nightcapper. And that is the Chicago Bears putting all the viewers to sleep against the New Orleans Saints, the 2-seeded NFC South champion New Orleans Saints. Fortunately, I guess, this game is going to be simulcast on CBS and, for some odd reason, Nickelodeon. Yes, you heard that right. Nickelodeon, of all networks, is going to broadcast an NFL wildcard game. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. But here's the kicker. SpongeBob SquarePants is gonna host this wild card game that's gonna be in a different format. It's gonna have slime, like CGI produced slime, obviously, and SpongeBob is gonna be there. And damn it, they better have sweet victory at halftime. God damn it, if they don't, I'm gonna be pissed. In all seriousness, though, yes, Nickelodeon somehow is doing an alternate telecast to this wildcard game, and it's just weird. So, the big thing going for the Bears is, can they even manage an upset? That's all I'm gonna say. The defense is now lacking Roquan Smith, linebacker Roquan Swift. So now the pressure's on Khalil Mack to get pressure on Drew Brees, and that secondary has been And not just the defense, the offense has been resurging until their daddy, Aaron Rodgers, smacked them back into reality in Week 17 to hopefully eliminate the Bears' asses from the playoffs. But no, the Arizona Cardinals brought the mediocre ass back to the dance and want them to get another spanking in the ass by the New Orleans Saints. So that brings me to the question, is this Mitch Trubisky's last dance in Chicago? And this is probably his last chance, his last audition to probably get an extension, a franchise tag, a transition tag for the Bears or for other teams, because the Bears declined his fifth-year option. In other words, he ain't getting a fifth year on the Bears. So after this year, he can go to another team if the Bears don't give him another contract. So is Trubisky's last dance? Well, we'll see after Sunday. As for the Saints, they're missing two of their big offensive players on offense. So will they get Alvin Kamara back from the COVID list? Will they get Michael Thomas back in time? His practice window opened. He was on IR for 3 weeks because that's the requirement for this year. You have to be on IR if you're part of the injured reserve. You have to be there for 3 weeks. So I don't know if he's gonna play on Sunday. And even though Drew Brees came back in the game against the Chiefs, he's slowly getting his rhythm back, but I don't know just how exactly healthy he is. So we'll see how healthy he is, how his performance will be. But either way, the Saints are still gonna wipe the floor with the Bears. That's no question. Saints might not be as healthy, or they might be not on this hot streak like Green Bay and Tampa or Seattle, but they still have enough to at least put a non-existent, mediocre Bears team away. And honestly, it's just pretty evident that Mitch Trubisky, just like Kirk Cousins, no shows when the lights are shining brightest, and he'll once again no show. He'll miss his receiver. He'll clearly miss his receivers. He'll throw it into the ground, throw checkdowns that go nowhere, and that's the last dance of Mitch Trubisky in Chicago, hopefully, unless the Bears are dumb enough to re-sign his ass. And no, Nick Foles is not going to save the Bears' asses again like he did against Atlanta in Week 3. So the key to win for the Saints is to put all the pressure on Trubisky to whatever chances he can have to win this game. Shut down the run game as much as possible, and make Trubisky try to throw it. That's all they got to do. There's probably some other things that the Saints got to do, but that's my personal key to win the game. And in the nightcap, first, the wild card round in general is a immediate rematch from Week 17. except the roles are reversed this time around. The Cleveland Browns are the visitors to the Pittsburgh Steelers, the AFC North champions. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Had the Cleveland Browns not fucked up against the New York Jets, the previous week's matchup, the Week 17 matchup, would have been so interesting. It would have been like, I mean, it was okay. Like the drama in Week 17 was okay, yeah. But imagine the Browns are not just fighting for a playoff spot, but they're also fighting for the AFC North title. Again, that's if Pittsburgh lost to the Indianapolis Colts. The same time the Browns were playing the Jets. So, nonetheless, these two teams are playing each other again immediately on the biggest spotlight that imaginable. NBC, the Browns returned to the playoffs in 18 years, since 2002. They are no longer the skid marks, at least for this season. So the big storyline for Cleveland is whether or not Baker Mayfield can prove he is the man. Not Becky Lynch man, but can he be the franchise man in Cleveland? 2019, he had a very disappointing year. 2018, yeah, it was an understandable. He was a rookie. He was trying to find his step in the NFL, but 2020 is the year that he has to prove himself worthy of all those commercials, especially all those those Allstate commercials or whatever it is commercials that he's in, Cricket Wireless. I don't know. He's in all these commercials, yet he's never had a postseason appearance until now, and he hasn't won a playoff appearance. We'll find out on Sunday, and hasn't gotten a Super Bowl. It's weird. So we'll find out if Baker Mayfield, even if he loses, like, he needs to at least have a very good performance on Sunday. He needs to make things tough on the Steelers. And he's going to have to overcome that when he doesn't have his coach, Kevin Stefanski, because he won't be there because he tested positive for COVID-19, and that's very unfortunate. So I hope Stefanski recovers, and I hope he's staying safe right now, staying healthy. I wish him all the best. But that's just such unfortunate timing for the Browns, especially as they prepare for their first playoff game in 18 years. But that's just a crusher right there. That is really such a crusher. So now it becomes a matter of how much this team's going to be affected by the absence of not just their head coach, but also it was another one of their coordinators and coaches that also tested positive or came in at least close contact with the person that tested positive. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen to this Browns team. How affected are they going to be? Or is the style of play going to be heavily affected, or are they going to be motivated to win it for Stefanski? We'll see. Now, as for Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, their franchise quarterback, rested in Week 17. Now, his play throughout the whole season has been okay at best. His go-to receiver all season has been Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, but mostly Chase Claypool. So now the question becomes, has that 1 week off been beneficial or potentially detrimental for Big Ben? We'll find out. We'll find out because, Ben's not getting any younger. He needs that week of rest at least. Plus, Mike Tomlin already knows that whether or not the Bills won or lost, it's like they need that rest. Big Ben needs that rest, damn it. So, in spite of that, I have the Steelers winning by a field goal, and not more, not less than that. again, things change and anything can happen. So I say 3 because Mike Tomlin's not going to know which Big Ben is going to show up. Just like with Phillip Rivers. You don't know which one you're going to get on any given Sunday. He's also going to have to get a lot of good production from the running back core and James Conner, Benny Snell, and Jalen Samuels. And their defense has got to step up like they've been doing all season. At least in the first half. So they got to step it up. As for the Browns, if they want to have a chance to win it and hopefully get Stefanski back for the next round, they got to attack early with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. That attack that Steelers defensive line with their top 2 running backs. And if it doesn't work, have Baker Mayfield not only take care of the football, but air it out to Jarvis Landry and his other receivers and tight ends. So if the key for the Steelers to win, because they're my prediction to pick, is to go after the Browns secondary because they're still suspect. The Browns defense is still suspect outside of Myles Garrett and Olivier Vernon, who was unfortunately lost to a torn Achilles. So that's going to take a hit on the Browns defense. So now it's up to Myles Garrett to lead the charge. But unfortunately, he's not in the secondary. So now it's going to be exposed a bit, actually a lot. So if the Steelers want to win this game, attack the Browns secondary with Claypool and Smith-Schuster. That's just these are just my opinions on who's going to win these games, these keys to win, these big storylines. Obviously, people are going to roast me for these stupidities. And hey, it's open forum to do it. I don't care. I could get 2 shits less. It's my thoughts. It's my podcast. Bring it on. But anyway, it should be an exciting wildcard weekend. Except with the exception of the NFC East game, but should be a exciting opener to the NFL playoffs as we march on to Tampa for what should be a very different Super Bowl. Not in terms of the teams, but in terms of the atmosphere. So it's certainly going to be a very, very different animal in terms of these playoffs. So nonetheless, I do wish all these teams the best of luck. And I know it's going to be awkward, still going to be very awkward for them, but nonetheless, let the games begin. Let the games begin on Saturday. If you're rooting for all these teams, root for them hard at home. And hopefully your team makes it to the playoffs. Mine certainly didn't. But I hope your team does just as well as mine could have did. But anyway, that was my preview. My preview of the NFL wildcard round for 2020, 2021, 2020 to 2021, whatever. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed this first official episode of Very Cold Lasagna. And I know there are a lot of dumb takes that you want to grab out of it, that were probably grabbed out of it. And I have a lot more stupid takes on the world of sports and soon professional wrestling once we reach that point. But there's just more and more NFL stuff that I want to cover. So we'll reach that point especially once we get to the Royal Rumble. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun to cover the Rumble. Especially with the fact that there's not going to be any fans. That's going to be very weird too. But once we get to the Rumble making their predictions, that's going to be a fun episode to do. But anyway, everyone, thank you for listening to this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna podcast. keep on eating that very cold lasagna filled with the most coldest, stupidest, and highly opinionated takes on the world of professional wrestling and pro football. And I will catch you all in the next episode of that Very Cold Lasagna. And have a nice freaking day.